So many of you are asking how to handle the deletion of a resource and you get a foreign key constraint error because that resource is being used in another table. So I thought I'd quickly record something to show you how I might handle something like that. So let me show you an example of what's actually happening. I have an existing exercise. I'm going to go ahead and try and delete this. And we're going to get this error because this exercise is currently being assigned to a student. So its primary key is actually being stored in a foreign key in the student exercise table. So I have the exact exception that is being raised, and it's right here. This Microsoft.data.sqlite.sqlite exception. So what I can do is I can catch that exception and then do something in response to that that is a little bit more friendly to the user. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go to my code. I'm going to look at the exact code that it is complaining about, which is right here. This is where I'm actually trying to delete the resource. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this execution in a try-catch block. So I take this whole using statement and I'll try to run that code. I'm going to catch that SQLite exception, store it in a variable just called EX. So specifically, I can look for this key or this string of foreign key constraint failed. So if I look at if the message of the exception contains that string, what do I want to do? Well, I just basically want to present a helpful message to the user. So what I'm going to do over here, I've already created it in the views and shared directory. I created a template called cannot delete. Take a look at that. Nothing really going on here other than an h2 tag and then a hyperlink back to the index page. I am using view data here because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in the string of what is trying to be deleted. So I'm going to go back to the controller and show you how to do that. So since the name of the Razor template was cannot delete, in here I have to create a method in the controller called cannot delete. And all I'm going to do is return the template. I'm not querying the database, I'm not really binding anything to it. So in here, I'm just going to return view. So the first place that ASP.NET is going to look for a template called cannot delete is in the student directory. It's going to look for cannot delete.cshtml. If it doesn't find there, the second place it looks is in the shared directory. And that's why I created it there, because for each of my controllers, what I can do is now use this template in all of my controllers without having to put that file in 5 different places. So I showed you in the template that I am going to display what resource is trying to be deleted because I'm going to be sharing this across multiple controllers. So I can set view data, specifically the resource key, here up in the controller. And since I'm in the exercise controller, I'm just going to say exercise. Okay. So now that I've got the method for returning the cannot delete Razor template, now down in the exception, I'm going to redirect. So I'm just going to honestly copy what I did here for redirecting to the index, come down here and say redirect to cannot delete. So now I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go and try to delete that exercise again and see if we can get this much more friendly message back to the user. So I'm just going to click back here. I'll click delete again and see what happens. That's much better. Cannot delete exercise because it is in use, and back to list will simply take me back to the list of exercises. So that's a pretty straightforward and very simplistic way of handling it, of instead of a user seeing a exception page of handling the exception and giving them something a little bit more friendly, even though I didn't really give them an action to do afterwards. It is a much friendlier way to present an error to the user.